Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
That's great to be back. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Your dial is set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're here. We broadcast Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 11 Central. And if you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. If you'd like to take us with you as you travel, we have a listen line, a bunch of listen lines actually, but let me give you one of them. 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. Captain John Reagan's with us. Welcome, Captain John Regan.
Oh, boy. At this point, I think good morning is editorializing.
I got to tell you, John, the phone's been ringing off the hook here at the farm. People are concerned about the status of everything. At the top of the list is the selection, who will be selected to be the CEO of USA Corporation. And people are worried. They're worried, and we're going to talk about that the second hour. Let me just mention there's a couple gun shows. Jackson, Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee, November 12 and 13. November 12 and 13, Jackson, Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee, rkshows.com. rkshows.com. And RK is the same organization that brings to you the preparedness expos, the ones that we speak at. So if you're interested, that's November 12 and 13, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee. So, John, last Thursday, we had a massive lightning storm, and it took down digital communications in a wide area in our neck of the woods, and we weren't able to communicate with digital to GCN. So we ran a rebroadcast. Friday, I had a dental appointment, a 2.5-hour dental appointment with Dr. Howard Shayne. And what had happened was I was eating some Raisin Bran cereal, and a tooth cracked. Now, I don't know how you do that, but I was able to do that. And so Dr. Howard Shayne made a crown for me, and it was a 2.5-hour experience. And I was so impressed. I'd like to have him on the air and talk about exactly what he did, but literally, he ground off the cracked area, and he took an image of what he had ground off, and he has a computer system that will make the tooth that, from the original image of the tooth, he'll make a new tooth based on that. And he literally made a tooth from a block of ceramic. He has a machine that is a computer-driven machine with 2 diamond cutters, and it cuts this block of ceramic, makes a crown, and then it gets cemented in place, and it is absolutely perfect. It feels like a tooth, looks like a tooth, and I guess that's what they do in Hollywood. But the amazing thing was, I didn't realize that he was closed on Friday. And he opened his office at 7 a.m., and I was his only patient. He brought in his assistant, and the two of them made this repair for me. And as I think about this, as I think, and Howard and I have been friends for a long time. Dr. Howard Shayne in Springfield, Missouri. We've been friends for a very long time. And it's wonderful to have a few really good friends like Captain John Regan, Dr. Norman Shealy, Rick Miller, and Ed Marvini, and Joey, and the list goes on. And I'm leaving out several. But, it's wonderful having some good, close friends. And if you can count on both hands, good friends that you've developed relationships with, by the time you're our age, you're doing really, really, really well. So I think I'm doing really, really well, Captain John Regan, having friends like you and the others I've mentioned, and I've left some out. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about being associated with the USA Prepares family.
Yeah, we can make those calls, and I can get on the phone and dial John Reagan's number and say, "Hey." Yeah. So what's on our list for today?
It's kind of like what I put in my post for Facebook. Which is scarier, All Hallows Eve, otherwise known as Halloween, or Election Eve? There is just so much going on. Besides the political, we've got the financial, we've got the military, we've got the technological, and none of it's really good. And then we could even throw into the mix just what's going on naturally, like with the Earth's magnetic field and with the state of the sun. But what I've got lined up for first hour mostly is financial type information. And starting out, the first two are related. The last three times and first time since 1980. Well, the last three times that the S&P 500 declined 7 straight days. They were not good times. That includes Lehman, which was the big drop that we had in October 2008. And then it also happened during the U.S. downgrade and the EU crisis. I guess that was 2011 time frame for both of those. And then, well, we didn't stop there. Friday, the S&P 500 was down for the 9th straight day. And this is the first time since 1980 when Jimmy Carter was president. It was an election year, which transitioned us to Ronald Reagan. And, it's kind of like, here we are again. Things are not looking well, and we're going to have a change. But regardless of who wins, it's not going to change a lot of the financial reality we're getting ready to face. And that brings up the third article. 130% tax increase needed. That's here in Dallas. They would have to more than double property tax to fix the fire and police pension fund. These pension funds are popping all over the place, and this just points out how serious it is. You need to have significant tax increases to cover the pension funds, or you have to cut the pensions considerably and upset all those people that worked for those promises. Either way, it's not a good situation.
You're talking about Jimmy Carter, and I remember those years, and that was the time that the term stagflation was used. stagnant economy, and high inflation. And do you remember those days, John?
Yes, I do. That was, basically my college years. I entered the Air Force in the fall of '79. And, fortunately for me, I had a secure job. And I know there were quite a few people that were hurting back in those days.
Mm-hmm. It was considered the worst recession since the first Great Depression. And they say unemployment was well over 10%. That would be government figures. And I remember engineers graduating in the later 70s, and no one was hiring, engineers at that time. And it was tough to get a job, so college graduates, really bright people, were having a tough time getting a job back then. Not that
it sounds a lot like today.
It does. Okay. What's next?
Well, the next two are related. Android at 88%, and there is no money in. Android now shipping 88% of phones worldwide. However, there's almost no money in making Android smartphones. So, it's great. They got the market share, but it's you can't make money doing it.
Well, if they crush Apple by continuing this, then they can make money by raising prices. And that's what Walmart does, John. You look at Walmart when they come in. I saw it in Virginia. Walmart came to town. Previously, there were no Walmart stores in the area. They came to town, and people would say, "Wow, these prices are great," and they would flock to Walmart instead of going to where they used to go shopping. And slowly Walmart raised the prices, and then the Walmart store was too small. And then they built a supercenter down the road. So they had a Walmart supercenter, and then they had this vacant store, which was, I believe it was, it turned into a farmer's supply, like a tractor supply type store. And for half of it. And the other half, I don't know what they did with this store. We'll be right back. Captain John Regan's with us. John, there was a substantial amount of damage after an earthquake that rattled Oklahoma today. And it was a magnitude 5, centered near one of the world's key oil hubs. And some century-old buildings were brought down. But Oklahoma, and there's an article on Fox News, Oklahoma has thousands of earthquakes, had thousands of earthquakes in recent years, nearly all traced to the underground injection of wastewater left over from oil and gas production. The earthquake was 1 mile west of Cushing, Oklahoma, and about 25 miles south of where a magnitude 4.3 forced the shutdown of several wells last week. There's concern about aftershocks, but the storage facility is the Cushing Oil Storage Terminal is one of the world's largest. As of October 28th, tank farms in the countryside around Cushing, Oklahoma, held 58.5 million barrels of crude oil. And so this area bills itself as the pipeline crossroads of the world. Now, what does this mean to us? I don't know. However, it's a huge facility, and if crude oil stops flowing for a short time, it may impact us. So what I did as a precautionary measure was I asked our son to make sure that we have enough gasoline here at the farm to continue operations. So if we're thinking about getting it tomorrow, no, we'll get it today. So I'm just passing this on. I'm not trying to cause a panic. I'm just saying, here's what I'm doing. I don't know if this means any disruption or not, but I'm going to be cautious about it and make sure that we have enough gasoline to run our chainsaws and equipment here at the farm. John, do you have any comment on that before we continue?
Well, it wasn't just there having problems. If you remember, before I went to Tennessee, they had that gasoline pipeline shut down. Unfortunately, they had it reopened before I made the trip. Mm-hmm. And then they were working just a mile away from where that problem was and hit the pipeline with a backhoe and had an explosion. And it's kind of like, here we are again. And fortunately, it wasn't down very long. But they were very close to having the same situation on the East Coast they had last month. Mm-hmm. Our infrastructure is dependent on the petroleum, gasoline, diesel, and having that product there when it's needed. And when it's not, it's a big disruption.
Okay, let me share a very quick story, side trip. So I was working on. I was doing a class yesterday. Dr. Howard Shayne was with me, and he had a problem with his 1978 Chevy pickup truck. And together, we were going to replace an axle bearing. So we took the axle apart, and the differential. We took just a small part of the differential apart, and so we needed a bearing. And so prior to us doing this, I called AutoZone, and they give me a 10% discount. And you can ask for the same discount that I get, class. Just ask them if they'll give you a discount, and they probably will. So I called them, and they didn't have the bearing, but they would get it for me. So they got it. Howard picked it up on the way to the farm, and I looked at the bearing, and I said, wow, kind of greasy in the box. And the bearing, the seal was an integral bearing and seal, and the seal was damaged on one side, the seal was damaged on the other side. And what had happened is someone obviously bought this and returned the part, and then we got it. We got it damaged. And so now I'm just adding some more caution into the equation. So when you go to buy a part, you may get the last one, and we got the last one at that time, and it was damaged. So now we've got a supply chain that, to me, is suspect. I'm going to, before I buy anything and pay for it, I'm going to look at it and make sure that if it's a replacement part, that it is complete, intact, and undamaged. So I'm just suggesting, class, that when you go to buy auto parts, you open that box and look at it, because it may not be brand new. It may be damaged, and it may be someone else trying to return a part that they tried to use and didn't know what they were doing and damaged it. So keep that in mind. And it could slow down your progress just by having to go and find a replacement for the replacement part. Captain John Regan, and I'll be right back. TheFinancialStateOfTheUnion.com. Captain John Regan's with us. John, I'm at EZE33.org, and I noticed that it looks like the pricing expires today for the Hear the Watchman conference. You want to share that with us?
Right. I created a USB stick that's got my latest information. It's a 4-hour video presentation. It covers some of what you've heard here, the financial state of the union, giving, it's not as detailed as for those that have heard me live on that, but it's enough to, paint the picture showing that, we're not getting out of this financial problem. It gets into the scenarios that we're facing, the one that the lessons of history shows us where we have war, the alternative where we don't have war given today's technology. And boy, there's a couple of articles this week that, if Nazi Germany had that, things would be a whole lot different. And 2 hours of those videos is what I call the unprepared prepper. A lot of things that you probably haven't considered that can be the difference between life and death. It also includes 2.5 hours of USA Prepares special shows that I've done. I've taken out the commercials, put those on there, and also have some other resources, including the reports from the EMP Commission. And right now you can get that stick. It's 1 gigabyte worth of files, and you can get it for $40. And there's a serial number on there. So as I do updates on here, it's going to be in a library with more presentations, more resources as time goes along. You'll get a discount for future releases. Also, if you don't have a copy of my book, I still have a few. I only keep a stock on hand when I'm doing live presentations. I'll do a special deal where right now you can get both the USB drive and a signed copy of the book for $50. Those prices expire tonight and will be going up.
Very good. And we get that at eze33.org.
That's correct.
Okay, Ezekiel33.org. eze33.org. Okay, what's next?
And again, whether you're there or the financialstateoftheunion.com, clicking the news tab gets you to where today's information is at. And we were talking about the good old Carter years and how people with decent degrees weren't able to find education. And in fact,
You mean jobs?
Couldn't find jobs. Yeah, today under the bigger picture section, I got a link: valueless education, and 70% of PhDs are unable to find alternative employment now. So it's not just the people with bachelor's degrees or master's degrees. It's most of the PhDs as well. And you think about all the time and money that goes into a degree. It just seems like it's being wasted now. And when you add on what's coming with the robotics and artificial intelligence, it's expected to get even worse.
I don't want to be too graphic, but I got out of the shower this morning and I was combing my hair and I was thinking, I don't think Barry had a manly chest. So I went to the internet and I looked up Obama's chest. Or Obama's chest, that's what I looked up. He doesn't. Class, I'll put a link up to Obama's chest, and you tell me what you think. He seems to have more of a feminine chest than a masculine chest. And as I think about that, we are losing the masculinity in the United States, John. Men are becoming unable to make decisions, more passive. Although there's violence, but more violence. But I don't think men are really men the way they used to be. You know, the guy who would be the strong person in the family. We're becoming weaker. Just my observation.
I was watching Things to Come, which was a book written by H.G. Wells. It was made into a movie in 1936. And it starts out, these two guys are talking at one of them's home, and they're both wearing suits. And this is after hours. And, the difference in, the way they looked, not just the clothing-wise, but physically, the mannerisms compared to today is just so striking. And some of that, I think, is related to the radiation that was released back from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And then they got plastics on top of that, which has done a number on people. And no telling what other chemicals we're being inundated with. And then you got all the vaccines on top of that. And it's really striking to actually see the differences, because when you're living it, you don't see the day-to-day changes so much. But when you get to compare a few decades apart, it's striking.
I'd go to my grandparents' house in the 50s and the 60s, for Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, those kinds of things. And my grandfather would have a white shirt and a tie on. It was just us, just family, some aunts and uncles and a cousin. But, is that what we do today? I don't think so. I think blue jeans, that's what we do today when we have Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter. We don't dress up the way and I'm not talking about friends coming over. I'm just talking about family. But that back then, I would wear a jacket and tie. My dad would, and my mom would be in a dress. The uncles would be in suits. My grandmother would be dressed up. Totally different. And if you want to see what it's like, just go look at the images on the internet of the soup lines of the Great Depression. There would be men in line for food in suits, right? You've seen those, John.
I've seen those, and it used to be that men and women would dress up when going out shopping, and now you've got all these articles about the shoppers of Walmart, which have some pretty scary photos involved.
Yeah. What's next?
Well, truck orders plummet again.
We've been talking about this, John, for quite a while. This is nothing new, but it's alarming that it doesn't stop.
And what was so bad, net orders for the month of October, that's this year, October 2016, were down 46% compared to the same time last year. It's a really steep decline, and it just shows, transportation's not picking up, and the reason it's not picking up is because there's not a demand. If there were a demand, trucks wouldn't be having a problem, ships wouldn't be having a problem, rail wouldn't be having a problem. But in Barry's alternative reality, everything's just hunky and dory.
There are a few car dealers on the way to Springfield that depending on how I travel, I may pass them. John, I'm telling you, in our neck of the woods, you couldn't put another car on these new car lots if you had to. There's no space for another vehicle. If they put another vehicle in there, it'd be almost impossible to move a vehicle that you're into the parking lot to look at a new vehicle. What I'm saying is, if you want to drive in and look at some vehicles, if they added another vehicle, you wouldn't be able to get in the parking lot. It seems to me that the selection is huge. The number of vehicles to choose from is huge. The number of customers is buying vehicles is way, way down. Are you seeing something like that in your neck of the woods out in Texas?
Well, again, here
lots of cars on the lot.
In Dallas-Fort Worth, I see a lot of cars, but it's also an artificial environment with all the companies coming in. So there's still somewhat of a decent economy here. But I've down the financial section, first article there is Repo Soar, and that talks about how auto repossessions have grown lately, and the auto sales have pretty much been going sideways for a while. So it's, again, just another indicator.
Mm-hmm. And it's getting very, very difficult to repair a new automobile without sophisticated equipment and specialized tools. And I was talking to one of our instructors about the new cars around Washington, D.C., how come so many of them are new compared to in our neck of the woods where so many of them are older. And the statement was made is they can't afford to break down. because they have to be at work. And if they do break down, it costs so much to fix them that they're not willing to have an older car. So 5 years old would be considered probably the end of when someone would keep a car in the Washington, D.C. market. At least that's what it looked like to me. John Regan and I are going to be back right after these few short commercial announcements. The election is coming up, and a lot of people are concerned about the selection. Who is going to be running Corporation USA? And I'm hearing rumblings that violence will erupt if she takes the helm. We'll be right back. Class Captain John Regan is with us. If you'd like to follow along, thefinancialstateoftheunion.com, news tab, or EZE33.org, news tab. John?
We've got two more items for this hour. Destroying more small business.
Yeah. And we got a caller. Dave in Missouri. You're on with John Regan.
Hello?
Dave? Yep, you're on.
Hey, Vince, this is Dave Klotz. How are you, brother?
Hey. Class, Dave Klotz is a USA preparedness instructor, and he and I have gotten in lots of trouble together. As a matter of fact, you even got fired for being on the air with me, right?
Well, didn't you know I'd be calling this morning? We're all in now. This is the fight for the future of your children and my grandchildren. If we don't stand up and do something about this today, by Wednesday, this could be all over. And it's a surreal. It's almost like we're living in cartoon land. Hi, John. How are you, brother? I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
I'm doing this is my 8th radio interview this morning. I'm doing everything I can. I just want to encourage everybody else to do what you can. The election could not be more important. This is the most important election of our lifetime. And this is the reason why. I am working, and Vince, you'll love this. I've fought Walmart to death. We have been at each other's throats like lions over a corpse for decades. But we're actually working together now, and we're developing a thing we're calling Project Renew. Renew is an acronym, stands for Restoring Every Neighborhood Everywhere. It's my idea. Sometimes I have a good idea, but they're actually at the table with me, and they're talking about investing serious sums of money with private partnerships and communities that have been left out through NAFTA GATT. We've lost $8 trillion over the last 30 years thanks to Bill Clinton normalizing trade with China. Hillary was a Walmart board member. If she's elected, they will walk away from the table because they know they've got the courts to themselves, and they will destroy our future. Hillary is the protection for the status quo. If you want more poverty, if you like seeing your downtown empty, if you like seeing your children working for nothing with no hope, if you enjoy watching your liberty turn to slavery, vote Hillary Clinton. But if Trump does 20% of what he says, that 35% tariff brings Walmart to the table. Suddenly, American manufacturers can compete with all the world's slaves. And we can have an opportunity to restore our downtown, our hometown, and our middle class. That will create the opportunity to again shine the light of liberty throughout the world. This is really the most important election any of us could imagine. And that Donald Trump was man enough to stand up and take all this heat, man, you can only give all glory to God. He's like the least likely candidate in my mind to do such a thing. But he's also the perfect man to do it if you look at it. So, a lot of us have put a lot into it. This fight's going on a long time. It's not just about this one election. There's been a lot that led up to this. But if people fall down now, if you vote for more of the same, man, they're going to double down, and we will never have an opportunity to rescue our children from the enslavement that these corporate masters of the world are determined to tie everybody up in. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents, brother. I'm trying to reach out everywhere I can this morning.
No disagreement from me. And John, your thoughts?
Absolutely, and we'll be talking more about that once we get to the other side of the break.
Dave Klotz, you were in Bentonville, Arkansas, years ago, and you proposed a made-in-USA area of the Walmart stores. What happened?
Yeah, I was a 19-year-old young man. I was actually recruited out of high school by Sam Walton himself. Sam Walton was a real American and a genuine soul. He used to say things like, if we don't buy from the factories in the towns we have stores in, who will be left to shop with us when the jobs were gone? It was simple economics. And I was raised by an old-school banker who taught me the same thing. If you don't invest in your hometown, who's going to be around to support your business? So, it's just old-school economics. So, yeah, back in 1987, I went to the Walmart board with an idea that I called Buy American program, and it wasn't my first time. Back then, Walmart was a pretty open company, and I was kind of like one of the boy wonders, so I had a lot of access. Well, at this particular meeting, I thought I heard your music playing, sorry. At this particular meeting, there was a blonde lady, and it was a short board meeting. I knew most of them, but I didn't know who this blonde lady was. And I'll never forget, she had this great big stick.
Hillary Clinton. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Captain John Reagan's with us, EZE33.org. And you can click on the news tab, follow along with us. And David Klotz in Missouri has called in with some election passion. And for those of you who don't know, David Klotz is a USA Prepares instructor. He spent about 20 years being trained at Walmart in the corporate culture. He met Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, and he was talking about a blonde lady at the end of hour number 2. Dave, so you were in a board meeting. You met this blonde woman. Who was she?
It's the craziest thing. I don't know why life unfolds the way it does. I don't know if John's ever heard this story or not. For 30 years, I've tried to get this message out to people as I've become familiar with who she was. 19 years old, I had a great relationship with Walmart general management and the corporate board, and was presenting ideas at the time. This is so early in Walmart history. They still had a Buy American program. They had signs hanging up in every entrance as to how many jobs they'd created through their Buy American program, created or retained. They were really proud of that. But we kept seeing more and more Taiwanese stuff come in the back door. Walmart was the first American retailer with an overseas buying office. We kept seeing more of this import stuff come in. You'd peel the label and say made in China. Well, it was illegal to deal with with China. Back in the 80s, we had principles against supporting communist regimes that enslaved their subjugated populations and denied them their God-given liberties. We didn't feel like our money should go to that. But you kept seeing more of this junk come in the back door, and so I wanted to do something to preserve Walmart's commitment to American manufacturing, and went to the board at the time that the supercenters were on the drawing table. There hadn't been one supercenter built yet. And I wanted to put an American-made department in the supercenter, right in the middle, between hard lines and grocery, to preserve Walmart's commitment to American manufacturing. Well, I was pitching this idea to a short board and one of my EVP friends. And this lady, this blonde lady was there. She totally looked like a lawyer, had this big trade and commerce law book. I'll never forget it. John loved that because they've exploited every hoop to make this happen. And so as I get about midway through the presentation, how I want to submit Walmart's commitment to American manufacturing by putting an American-made department in the supercenters, this blonde lady actually gets on her feet. And she's directly across the table from me, leans over into my face. She wasn't like 5.5 foot tall, and at the time she was kind of attractive, mid-30s. I was just a 19-year-old young man. But there was something in this woman that was so possessed. I don't even really have words for it. She got over in my face. Who are you to tell me how to spend my money? Why should I waste my money supporting your high-minded ideas? You need to grow up and get lost, is what the woman told me. I've never been spoken to in such a cold, inhuman way. That got me, and I had no idea who this woman was. I did everything I could to try to turn the conversation, using Sam Walton's words, using the culture of the corporation, using old economic arguments, and she was just ice. Ultimately, I kind of stumbled out there like I'd been hit with a sledgehammer. A month later, I pick up the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, and there's her smiling picture on the front page. Turns out to be Governor Clinton's wife, Hillary Clinton. That was my first introduction with her, and that got me watching the Clintons. And after that, Bill ran for governor his last term in '89. Right to work was the big thing. Sam hated unions, and right to work strips people of the capacity to be able to organize for a rightful share of the profit they produce for a corporation. That's actually what it does. It's a misnamed piece of legislation. Democrats were opposed to it. Bill campaigned against it. As soon as he was elected, he flipped because, poor Sam, and not just Sam, he also got Tyson and other factors in Arkansas, and codified right to work in the Arkansas Constitution. Then I watched him go on to be elected president, where immediately he signed NAFTA, GATT, WTO, normalized trade with communist China, less than 5 years after the tanks were running their kids down in Tiananmen Square. 4, Walmart to flood rural economies with made-in-China inferior junk and export millions of American jobs to the tune of $8 trillion to this day and point. And so, we look at our country. We're $20 trillion in debt. We haven't seen median family incomes rise in over a decade. Our local businesses are starving to death. Our downtowns are falling down. Our infrastructure is crumbling. And we wonder, why? What happened? You've got to teach people to reinvest in their community. And this is my only point. I've spent hours doing this morning, as I do so many days. And this is my only point to tell people. If Hillary Clinton's elected, Walmart will walk away from the negotiating table. We have them right now. They are interested, and if Trump comes through with his 35% tariff, suddenly American workers are at par again with all the world's slaves, and we can get some of these jobs back. We can get our investment in our infrastructure, in our downtowns, our hometowns, in our working families. But everything hinges tomorrow. And I never thought I'd be at this point where you see so starkly the future of the nation, the future of the people and places that you care about most, really on the line. If Hillary's elected, it's more of the status quo. Walmart walks away, doubles down, and buries you under debt and Chinese junk in your landfills that's going to poison your water supply. If Trump is elected, we have a chance to bring the world's largest corporation, who right now is at the negotiating table with me, of all people, the least unlikely negotiation ever in human history, to bring billions of dollars, and I'm talking hundreds of billions of dollars. It's a crazy conversation we're having, Vince. I mean, it blows your mind. Hundreds of billions of dollars reinvested in communities that have been left out for the last 30 years, and to try to reuse some of the lost manufacturing capacity. But we got to retrain the labor force, man. I mean, they spent 2 decades teaching people how not to work and live on their dole. And that's what, so, I mean, we've got a lot of obstacles, but we have a chance. If Trump's elected tomorrow and he's true to his word, if Hillary's elected, we're dead in the water. And I would love to hear John's comment about this.
Well, it's regardless of who wins, nothing's going to stop the financial collapse. You talked about the $20 trillion.
Brother? You think we can't even shore it up with investment in our infrastructure now? You think it's too late?
Well, see, you only talked about the $20 trillion federal debt. The United States in total, between government debt, corporate debt, and private debt, is $66 trillion.
Right.
And then it's going to take more than $200 trillion over the next 75 years just for Social Security and Medicare. It's the problem.
You feel pretty hopeless about it, like I do, don't you? And so are we really too late in the game to save this? Did we let it go down too far down the road?
It was probably the 1980s was the last chance to make a difference. It is now so far down the road that, the way I put it, you can tax 100% of income and still go further in the hole. You could eliminate Social Security and Medicare today, and it still wouldn't stop things. And even if you did eliminate it, the social unrest would undo America.
And that's the problem, because they created this counterculture that, they're never going to work. And so I'm not sure what... I want to make another point here real quick. So, our major debt holders, China, they've been us over the barrel. The Clintons put us over the barrel to China, in the early 90s. And that has really never stopped. So, so we go to China. They've made trillions of dollars from our stupidity, and we say, hey, I know you hold all that debt, but what is that debt? Paper? We're going to reinvest in our country, and we're going to. What's that going to lead to? World War III? Is there no out for it? Can we negotiate hard like we should have always done?
Well, unfortunately, like I say, mathematically it's impossible to get out of the situation. If you looked at trying to cancel the debt, to to make things right. Much of that debt is held by pension funds, which are already having problems.
Right.
So I mean, it's really, really ugly. In fact, and the only way out of it, and I don't see this happening either, is for us to do things God's way. And that would involve the forgiveness of debt, the caring for one another instead of these social programs that the government does.
Yeah, that's the one thing I wish I'd heard Trump speak more about is the corruption of the Federal Reserve and that whole mafia enterprise. I wish they would really do something about that. I mean, I was warned about that as a kid by my banker grandpa and didn't understand it until I become adult. But, that really is a criminal enterprise, and they absolutely set on the productivity of everybody and manipulate everything. I feel your frustration, but, man, I just can't give up. I mean, you probably do, too. I've got a grandkid that's coming up, and I just can't think that he's not going to have a future here because we were all so foolish and could never do anything about it. We were actually manipulated to our own destruction by that criminal class. I just can't rationalize. Maybe I'm too stubborn to give up. I don't know.
Well, the other part is you have to add in the spiritual side of things, too, which has come out in these emails lately, and it's even worse than we thought it was.
Oh, these people are satanic. I mean, they are absolute witches of the highest order. And some of us have known that and been screaming it forever, but it doesn't seem to matter with this culture. I just don't get how people don't understand that spending your money offshore denies it as an investment into your children's future. I don't get it. When they see their towns crumbling and they don't do anything but the same thing, man, I don't understand it.
Dave, let me ask you a quick question.
I'm afraid they're going to elect Hillary. I really am. Or they should be put on it.
Dave, let me ask you a quick question so our class can hear this. You were on the air with me. You and I got people to sign a petition to stop the expansion of Walmart stores in Springfield, Missouri. The number of signatures necessary was achieved. We were beaten in the court system, but you were fired as a result of being on the air with me. Is that correct or not?
Oh, absolutely. We got the first petition ratified or certified in Springfield in a 20-year period in Springfield to require a citywide vote as to whether or not the Walmart downtown neighborhood market was going to be allowed to go forward. We achieved the number of signatures we need in 2 days. We forced a vote. There's your music, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah. Do you want to hold?
Sure, I'll hold.
Okay. All right. As a result, David Klotz was fired. I ultimately was removed from the air. It was a great day. We'll be right back. Captain John Regan's with us, and lines are really lit up. So, Dave, we've got a few more minutes to wrap up. Please continue. Dave Klotz, USA Preparedness Instructor, passionately speaking about our last chance.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, it's surreal to be in this position at this point in time, especially when you were educated by old school folks who, invested in their communities, built local businesses. My grandpa had an old school country bank. His philosophy, if you don't invest in your hometown, who's going to be around to do business with you? Sam Walton used to say, if we don't shop and if we don't support the factories in the towns we have stores, who's going to be left to shop with us? All this has been sold out to this whole idea of globalism. And now we literally stare the stark reality in the face that tomorrow we'll decide, are we America? Do we invest nationally? Do we put our children first? Do we invest in our hometowns? Do we build our infrastructure? Now, do we support economics of prosperity and redevelop the middle class? Or do we go with Hillary Clinton's tried and true road of globalism and send all our jobs overseas, turning all our children into the slaves for corporations who will ride us to the crown forever? That's where we're at. And it's just surreal. And I'm so proud of you, Vance. I give God the glory for meeting a man like you, to know that John's out there. And, I share his frustration when you hear people like John who are so knowledgeable and see the reality of it and look at the dollars and cents, which I've always done, too. It does leave you a little bit disheartened because a man like John should have hope. But how do you have hope when you see so much chaos and I don't know, just devastation that's been reaped upon the nation that you love. And, if they destroy America, my favorite 4 words, we've covered this before, ever written, endowed by our Creator. That's the difference between us and every other nation. We believe we possess liberty inherently. We believe we are born with liberty endowed by our God, not given us by government, not extended to us by a corporation under a human resource program. We are endowed by our Creator with liberty. Chinese don't know that. Indians don't know that. So how come all our money goes to all these slave nations who have corrupt, tyrannical regimes that sit on billions of human beings, denying them their God-given liberties, and we then will buy that garbage at the expense of investing in our own community? I mean, we've got to somehow get back to the reality that this gift was given us by our founders and by a God who loves us. And if we allow this to fail now, it's destroyed for all humanity. How long did it take for humans to realize liberty? And we're going to go back to that point for corporate profits to offshore it so they don't have to pay taxes even? I got to eat my breakfast, and I love you so much, Brent. I'm just doing what I can to express the reality of the situation that we're in. And if people don't act wise tomorrow, it literally could be our last chance.
Dave Klotz, thank you so much for being with us. John, any quick comments?
Let me just quickly talk about the first 2 links I have for Hour 2, espionage and treason. These link to the United States Code sections for those. Mm-hmm. And in espionage, paragraph 793, gathering, transmitting, or losing defense information, and paragraph 798, disclosure of classified information. Just want to point those out. And treason in the United States is a very narrow definition, and it requires aiding the enemy that's levying war against us. And this gives you the actual United States Code, and you can compare that to what you've seen in the emails. And I think, unlike the FBI director, you'll see somebody should be indicted, probably for multiple counts.
John Regan, we have the tree in Mason, Ohio. Welcome.
It's Patrice. Pat Wright.
I have on my screen THE, the space TREE.
That's funny.
That's what I thought. I'll tell you what. And you say your name is Patrice?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Well, so Patrice, please hold on, and we'll be with you right after these few short commercial announcements. Captain John Regan's with us, EZE33.org, and I'm looking at the call screen, and it says the space tree, Mason, Ohio. And John, our engineer, gave me a back channel message. He said, no, the space tree. That's right. That's what you said, the tree. But it's really Patrice. Patrice, you're back on.
Hi. My first thing that I found out last night while I was listening to Dave Hodges was that somebody who is a good source for him said that there was Ohio National Guard being mobilized near Dayton, Ohio, last night. In part, the Ohio Guard is using rented tour buses to take them to their unknown rally points, presumably near Dayton, Ohio, as a prelude to departure. It is not known how many personnel are involved. So there's something going on there. I do know in Cincinnati for early voting, there is only one place to vote for the whole county of Hamilton County. Mm-hmm. So it's like a 5-hour wait for people. Mm-hmm. And when I look on Facebook, it looks like, I'll just use the word Democrats or Hillary supporters, seem to think that that's a Republican thing. And of course, Republicans think that it's a Hillary thing. So it's interesting how the blame game, that's part of the problem, Good is evil and evil is good. You can't even get to the same page about any of this stuff.
Are you hearing about potential violence as a result of who is selected?
I hear it from people who are in the know, who know exactly what's going on. And then you talk to other people who are clueless or in ether or delusional or whatever the spell they're under, and they're like, oh, that isn't going to happen. So here again, it's polar, and this is everything's polarizing.
John Regan?
Yeah, it's disturbing on many levels, and I hope that cooler heads prevail. We have seen violence in the country. In fact, we've probably lived through some of the more peaceful times, and we've become accustomed to that. But I remember the riots that happened in the 60s, and there were even larger demonstrations before my time. And, maybe the cycle's coming around again where we're going to see demonstrations, whether for good or for bad.
The cycle is 1776 from all those people who study cycles, because you've got all forces colliding.
No question about that. Patrice, thank you so much for calling.
Sure.
Mike in Tennessee, welcome.
Greetings, gentlemen. Earlier on another Genesis show, there was a caller that mentioned that she looked forward to the hell and brimstone coming to wipe out Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, that's one solution. Another solution is the people will get behind a David who's got a few stones. Maybe that'll solve the problem also.
And when you say stones, that could mean multiple things, right?
It could. Mm-hmm. It could. The problem that one is from personal experience is that the evil that will follow one Hillary Clinton is beyond what the average person can imagine. There are people that will line up that so evil, they will come in, do anything. Are you hearing an echo?
Yeah, go ahead. Please continue.
Okay. There are people that will come in that are so evil that will do anything that they can get away with to satisfy this cult following. And I, for one, experienced that back in 1993 when my son was taken from me by a Clinton appointee to the U.S. Attorney's position, Veronica Coleman, who called a special hearing to take my son from me specifically because I was a Christian who did not promote homosexuality. Now, that didn't make the news, although it should have. It was covered up, and it took me 2 years of fighting and losing my position with FedEx on the account of this judge, who was a former FedEx staff attorney, that they can manipulate most anything they want to. They can eliminate your jobs, your friends, your family. They can destroy you in many ways. And those are the people that align themselves with these evil Clintons, and those people that are not aware of just how devious, demonic, and evil that they are. Go out and vote and find out.
Mike, let me ask you this. After all of these things have happened to you, and we're talking with Mike Parsons in Tennessee. He ran for office. After all of these things have happened to you, is it possible for you to go out and get a job as anyone might try to do? Just apply for a job. Would you be able to do that?
Not anymore. No. Not anymore.
No one would hire you, right?
No, they won't take the time to find out what happened because it's so it's so hideous and so bizarre that the average person can't imagine that people in positions of power would abuse that power to further a cult following and utilizing me as a sacrificial lamb and my son to take a male child from his father and place him with a homosexual just to be able to demonstrate the power that they have. It's the epitome of evil, and most people would default to, well, you had to have done something. No, did nothing wrong. And
Mike,
because of that, when ultimately I got my son back and he's fine, but the hell that we went through, people have no idea.
John Regan?
Yeah, what more can you say on that? We've covered it on the show. You had Larry Nichols on, giving inside information from his experience with the Clintons, and unfortunately, too many people are willing to overlook that or just don't even know what's going on.
Yeah,
and
imagine
find out
Hillary.
tomorrow.
Imagine Hillary being in charge. Imagine Hillary deciding that she's going to beat some small country up. Imagine that. That's what we're talking about. Mike Parsons in Tennessee, you and I have had discussions, and you talked about you can't call it a revolution, you can't call it a civil war. Would you please educate our class on why you say that?
Well, no, you have to have a legitimate authority to revolt against. So because this is an illegitimate corporation posing as government, it's a takedown of a corrupt corporation posing as government. You can't have a civil war because we're not fighting against each other. We're in opposition to a corrupt corporation posing as government. So it's not a revolution because it's not a legitimate government of we the people. We're not revolting against a real authority. It's not a civil war because we're not fighting amongst ourselves. We're dealing with a corrupt corporation posing as government. And all those people that have those corporate government jobs, you're nothing more than a pawn. And biblically speaking, there's an accounting. And those people that have sold out to the dark side and supported the evil, you've made your choice.
Mike Parsons, thanks so much for calling in. I appreciate it. Connection's not so good, but appreciate your call. John Regan, back to your scheduled class.
Well, I wanted to get on record for something. You know how I've been talking for years. There's no way to avoid the financial collapse.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Given the lessons of history, the most likely option is war. There is another alternative, and that's, like I say, even scarier with the technology we have today. And then I had this realization about, what this election is for, and unfortunately, it's still those two options. If we have Hillary, we are really looking at that war option. And even if Trump wins, we still have Barry in office for more than 2 months, and he may, push the Soviet or push Russia over the edge, or China as well. He's poking that side too. Then I got to thinking about what happens if Trump actually makes it through. We've seen where he has many more supporters than Hillary. What if they can't overcome, the cheating that they're planning, and Trump actually wins? And I believe that actually reduces the chances of war. And when we get into those tough financial times, I think he's more likely to try to find solutions than deflect the anger going to war like I've talked about before. And again, without the grid down, we have all this wonderful technology that just keeps growing and growing. So I'd still much rather have Trump in the White House rather than Hillary, especially given all that we know about her. But it doesn't solve our problems, and it gets down to doing what you can for your family in preparation for things that are coming.
Captain John Regan's with us, and we'll be right back after these few short commercial announcements. Just got word from our engineer that there was a massive problem on the network, and we were the only show that seemed to survive this massive problem on the 6 studios at GCN. So, class, these things are happening, and you've got to wonder. Is it internet related? Is it because of negative chatter about the election? Is it because of a lot of chatter about the election? Is it because people are saying truthful things about Hillary and that ilk, or what? So I just want to share that with you, that we did not go down, but we were within seconds of going down, usaprepares.com, as others have. But everything's back up and running, which is great. Captain John Regan, back to you.
Well, I might as well throw in my coincidence there. About a minute before we're going into the first break of this hour, the power went out here. And it just so happened yesterday was the day that I finally had an opportunity to get some electronics moved, and that allowed me to put the UPS on my network gear. And had that not happened this past weekend, I would have been down and probably, well, since the power came back so quickly, I would have been back after the break. But, I'm sure that wasn't related because we're having storms here. But, it's not easy keeping everything going when bits and pieces are falling apart. We're having the cyber attacks, and some people are expecting a bunch of those tomorrow. I just wish that, we could educate people. I don't see how a Christian can be a Democrat. You look at what Democrats have done. They've destroyed our money. They've destroyed our economy with debt. They've destroyed our morals. They've destroyed the country through demographics. Not that the Republicans are any saints. They've destroyed our freedoms with things like the Patriot Act. And with the Republicans, even if it was a Democrat president, they're the ones that put these trade agreements in that have, destroyed the factories and the work base of America. But those people have been exposed a bit because of Trump. So, I wish we had better options. But again, going into tomorrow, all I can say is I hope when the smoke clears that we do not have a witch as president.
Yeah. Yep. And John, there's an old saying, when the going gets tough, the tough go shopping. And today I'm going to go shopping to top off some of the spare parts that we need to continue operations here. I'm very serious about that. And class, you may want to do the same thing. I'm not trying to sell fear. I don't approve of selling fear, but I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know anyone who does. No one I know is inside this the machine that is going to make the decision. But consider what you might need, and consider the fact that it's possible that she will be selected to run the corporation. Class, if you know how to build a rocket stove, we'd love to hear from you. If you know how to build refractory cement, we'd love to hear from you. If you know how to take an old Mercedes diesel engine and put it in a Ford pickup truck or a Chevy pickup truck, we'd love to hear from you. Seriously. We are looking for instructors who know how to do those things. So we'd like to have more of you join the faculty at USA Prepares and teach us specialty training that you have had experience with. And that can be done via PowerPoint presentation. I can put it on the website. It can be done via a document. If you want to send it to me, I will read it, and if it's germane to what we do, I'll read it on the air. Or if you'd like to be an instructor on the air with your real name, we can do that. Or if you'd like to use an alias, we can do that. But we want to get the information out, and it's incumbent upon us to train and educate us. John Regan, any final comments?
And just if you get a chance, I had nearly 50 articles on today's link. We didn't even skim the surface today.
No, we didn't. John, let's see if we can get you scheduled to come back and get that information out. Captain Sean Regan, thank you so much for being with us. Class above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to